Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, back with Lea C,
Yep. Hi, guys.
and we are here to talk about the third episode in the Heart of the Crystal Gems arc. If you missed it, we talked about yesterday's episode, What's Your Problem, over on your channel, and there'll be links in the description. Probably be a card up at this point if you want to go see that. If you didn't see it yet, check it out. So, yeah, this episode was something.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I know that you have slightly different feelings on that. So, did you want to start off first?
Um, sure. Yeah, so just in the brief time we talked before recording here, we shared that we have different opinions on this episode, and that's totally cool. So I'm kind of excited to talk about it then. Um, so this episode, like, I don't know. I mean, a part of it was I did kind of have some hopes for it. Like I had hoped Greg would have been a bigger part of it. I was kind of hoping it would be some sort of flashback episode because Sapphire's episode was also a flashback episode. Um, I don't know. I was hoping maybe a little bit more for the song too. That the song might be a little more interesting. But but regardless of like what I had hoped, I'm not a huge fan of kind of what turned out because the story was like basically a lot of like metaphorical because when you really kind of break down what's happening, it's Ruby leads everyone just to walk around this like desert landscape where she fake shoots at snakes. It like nothing actually happens. I know that's
Sneeple.
like yeah, because the gems are always for whatever reason they're like they're always fighting snakes. I think Ronaldo might have a point. Party guy.
Yeah, party guy bit Pearl. Now we have Ruby versing off with the snake.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't mean to be like a buzzkill, but just the Western stuff just didn't do it for me. I just found it to be really random, even though it was told to us the last episode that something involving cowboy boots. So it kind of even tempered expectations a little bit and was like, yeah, well, this is coming. But even still, I just found it to be really weird. And I know it's like it's genre parody, and Steven Universe has done that before. Ironically, like in the episode Kindergarten Kid, which I mean, I don't know. That kind of sounds more like a Western episode and not as much a Looney Tunes episode, but whatever. Um, Ruby is not a kindergarten kid. I don't know. I didn't feel like it really clicked for me. I'm really not a huge fan of the genre, so maybe that's it. But I just feel like I wish more had actually happened in the episode. I liked that it was explicitly like this story is explicitly about developing at least Ruby, not so much Sapphire, unfortunately, but at least Ruby into being like, you know what? Our relationship should be more than just literally when we're fused. We should be in a relationship when we're not in a relationship, and we should still be able to be our own people. And I think that's great and beautiful. And I think we talked about this last time that I did kind of want to see more of Ruby and Sapphire as individuals, as more developed characters. That they aren't, the show isn't just trying to say, well, these characters are literally their relationship and nothing else. But yeah, please give your thoughts about the episode.
Oh, well, I know that you said it was kind of like random almost, but I feel like it was supposed to be because ever since Ruby, the answer was it was the reason why Sapphire can't predict her is because she's so spontaneous and and random.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I guess from a standpoint from the show, I guess it makes sense that you don't want it to be random, but I think in Ruby's case, it makes sense that it's playing on her character and that she is a spontaneous character and she just kind of does, like I was saying yesterday, how she's impulsive and that's like part of her personality. So she sees this comic book and she's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and do that. Like the first thing that I see, I'm just gonna go and do it. I don't know, I liked it. Like playing off of what you said too, I do like how this episode was developing on Ruby and it really wanted to show that she's becoming her own person. Because what was interesting to me that they mentioned in the episode was that she as soon as she emerged, she was put with a bunch of rubies, and then shortly after that she was introduced to Sapphire, so she wasn't that old when she became Garnet. So
Hmm.
that means she, and I mean, she, the homeworld environment also isn't really conducive to developing your own personality because it's very cut and dry. I mean, besides maybe the Famethist, maybe,
Hmm.
but she didn't really have enough time to develop as herself before she met Sapphire. And I think that that was really interesting. And I think it also played in a lot to um, more on her character too, because I thought she was at least a few thousand years old or a few hundred years old by the time she met Sapphire.
Yeah, she seemed to always be with the Ruby Squad, and it is interesting because Sapphire sapphires are kind of like unique in that they don't really need other gems to be powerful. They're seers, and so when we see Sapphire, I mean, she's guarded by the other rubies, but she's clearly like a step above them. So Sapphire has more experience being alone than Ruby would have.
Exactly. And then Sapphire had time to develop her personality. And then on the other hand, Ruby's not. And like, that was the other thing too. When she talks about fusion, she talks about how she doesn't feel different when she's fused. She just always feels like herself because all the rubies are very similar.
Mm.
So it's just like, I don't think she ever got that opportunity to become her own person. And I do think that that was part of the reason why Greg was just like, was able to talk her into it. Because I think if she had her own personality at this point, I feel like she probably would have been angsty and wanted to go back to Sapphire automatically.
Mm.
But like since she doesn't, then she's like, well, wait a minute, no, like I'm actually having a nice time by myself, and I haven't really experienced this before. So now I want to have actual time to experience this instead of having Sapphire attached to my hip 24/7.
I mean, like, I don't disagree with any of that. It's more just like what actually happened to develop Ruby in this episode. She was quote unquote on her own, but she wasn't even that because she was still with Steven, Craig, and Amethyst.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean,
I agree with the flashback too, because I was also hoping that there was going to be a flashback as well. So, I mean, we talked about that the other night, but
yeah. But it's not even. I don't know. I just wish more had actually happened. Is the thing, and I know that's like, uh, I don't know. I have a history with like more out there episodes where it's just like I don't know. They didn't. I guess they just didn't sell me on this premise. Just like Ruby picks up a magazine and then just wants to be a cowboy because cowboys are free or whatever. But I just didn't. I didn't feel like it kind of worked into anything. There wasn't. The conflict was like all internal in Ruby, and it wasn't really demonstrated in any way in the episode. Like with anything she actually does, it's just kind of like, well, I'm gonna be alone now, even though I'm with everyone else, and then I'm walk around the desert, and then actually, wait, you know what? I miss Sapphire. Like I don't know. It's just what literally happens doesn't seem to match up with kind of like a lot of the cool ideas presented at the beginning and end of the episode. I think.
yeah, I get what you're saying. That's definitely true. Um, I'm trying to think.
You want to talk about the song?
Oh, yeah, the song. I thought it was cute. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it because, like you, I'm not really into the whole Western theme, to be honest.
Mm.
I did like how Greg and Steven and Amethyst had like the background chorus, but they didn't have any words since it was a Ruby centered episode.
Mm.
So I did like how they gave her like the spotlight with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't it's not that I don't like the song. It's just it's not like a I don't know, it's not a super emotional song. It's not a super I don't know, like What's the Use in Feeling Blue is like a really powerful song or like Stronger Than You or Strong in the Real Way. I mean, even like Giant Woman is like kind of interesting, but like I don't know, it's just kind of a quiet, cute little song. And honestly, I'd be fine with that if it wasn't for the fact that this season we have one other song that's not sung by Sadie Killer and the Suspects. And the Sadie Killer and the Suspects songs are also kind of like cheesy and corny and meant to be kind of like schlocky. Like Lapis' song is the only song this entire season up to this point that was an actual like song. I don't know. And to have this
Yeah.
be like the next one after just kind of a drought outside of Lapis, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, well that's cute, but like where's the real like gut punch Steven Universe songs I'm used to?
This is true as well. Maybe they're trying to like be funny in the fact that like part of Garnet doesn't have as such of a robust song as Garnet usually has. Maybe that's what they're trying to pull. But I have no idea. I mean, I liked it, but it's not one of my favorites. I'll put it that way.
I mean, I will admit that with a lot of the, like the newer ones, like "What's the Use in Feeling Blue" was a song that took a little while for me to really catch on to it. Same way with "Distant Shore," although I don't love that as much as "What's the Use in Feeling Blue." So maybe this one will grow on me, but I don't feel like it's a super powerful song or a super catchy song, and it's just kind of. I don't know, it kind of represents my feelings towards this episode in general. It's that a lot of the interesting stuff just kind of got this wash over with this weird, like, cowboy western aesthetic that I just I don't know. It could just be my taste on that. I just feel like it kind of stole the show away from just interesting ideas.
No, like I definitely get what you're saying. Now that you said that, I was thinking about a more interesting direction that they could have taken with it is, you know, in the part where Ruby ran through the bush like impulsively and she
Mhm.
like fell down the ravine kind of. I think maybe it would be interesting if they kept on playing on that idea that Ruby, I mean, I wouldn't say she needs Sapphire because I think that she could very well function without her.
Mhm.
But I think if it kept playing on the fact that she acts somewhat impulsively and keeps getting herself into trouble, I do think that that would be more interesting because she could get herself in real bad trouble somehow later in the episode. Like maybe she gets into a thing of snakes or whatever, she gets stuck into like like a ditch with snakes or something like that. Maybe
Mhm.
that would be a little bit more interesting and a little bit more a lot more would happen. I don't know,
Maybe.
that's like the only other direction that I think they could have taken it in if they really wanted to go on the whole Wild West lone Ruby route.
Well, why didn't they just? I mean, I don't know. You could have even done like what they did with Kindergarten Kid, or the Peridot episode after Raise the Barn, where there's a monster, there's a not a shadow, a corrupted gem, and Ruby wants to prove that Ruby can do things for herself, and so Ruby wants to take down this gem by herself. That might be just like too similar to Kindergarten Kid, but some sort of play on that, and you could do the Western thing, but there's actually like an actual enemy to fight and an actual thing to do in the episode, and something that Ruby really proves to herself. Because all she proved to me in this episode is that she can kind of wander around the desert pretending like she's a cowboy. I didn't really feel like she was a cowboy in the episode because, you know, fake finger guns and like imaginary adventures. It's just like, I don't know. It's like, do you want me to feel for this character, or is this supposed to really be just like a comedy detour? Because I will tell you that I really liked where the beginning of the episode was talking, and I liked the ending. I thought it was really cute, and I thought that it would have been a fantastic surprise if that wasn't spoiled for like pretty much everyone.
This is true. Like 5 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm anti spoiler, but just like when it's on a T-shirt, it's like hard to.
Oh yeah, from Hot Topic too, not just
Uh,
some dinky store somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it was just all over the internet, all over everywhere, all over everything, and it's an adorable T-shirt. It really is, and it does make me excited for what's gonna happen. But I do feel like that was supposed to kind of be this kind of like really gut punchy emotional thing, and I think it is still beautiful, but it just didn't it was just like, oh, okay, we're, you know, here's where they're proposing. It wasn't like, oh, they're gonna do an actual marriage, this is gonna be so exciting. It's like, well, I've had time to prepare for this, and this isn't the show's fault, it's just a perception thing.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. Like I still cried during the proposal scene because I thought that the proposal scene was absolutely beautiful. At least I thought it was, and it kind of played on Ruby being like, "Oh, well, I want us to be together not because Rose said," type of a thing. And I
Mhm.
really did like the proposal scene, but I do agree that I probably would have been sobbing if I didn't get spoiled. But it was more like I cried for like 5 minutes and then I was fine, and I feel like it would have really caught me off guard because I I wasn't expecting like the proposal scene to be like how it was tonight, and I was expecting like the proposal scene eventually or just in general, but this, I feel like you're right, it would have gotten us so much more off guard, and that I think that the episode would be a lot more emotionally impactful if it hadn't leaked. And it's such a
Mhm.
shame too because it leaked from a keyring company and then Hot Topic. And it's just like it wasn't even from Cartoon Network that it leaked. It was from two merch stores. It's
Yep.
just it's so upsetting.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that there is merch of this, but yeah, and then I mean, uh, yeah, that's a bummer.
It's
Um,
just a missed opportunity.
yeah, but it doesn't. There is still beauty in the scene, and it is still. It's just it's nice. It's framed very very nicely, like with Ruby getting off the horse and everything. And I mean, so I will say that kind of like Hit the Diamond, where even though I don't really agree with like what they did with the episode, I do still like little moments. I do still think there were funny parts in it, like Amethyst being the
Amethyst was
horse.
great.
That was just they always have time for a horsing around.
Oh my god, Amethyst was great this episode. This
Yeah.
episode and last episode, she was great.
hmm You're
Oh
the
my
most mature
gosh.
crystal gem. Transforms into a horse for the episode.
Yeah, she runs around as a horse for like a full day, probably longer than that. She's totally the most mature crystal gem,
hmm
Steven.
hmm
100%.
Remember how gems can't like transform for that long because dramatic well, whatever. When it's when it's a joke, they can transform for as long as they need to. Um,
I'm just laughing because that's also sets the implication that like she had to transform back in certain spurts. So does that mean she'd have to warn Ruby, or would she just turn back and then Ruby's just like falls down on her? Like I'm trying to think of how funny that would look
no, no, no.
just out of context.
You see, she stayed the horse the whole time because unlike when she was trying to be Jasper, even though she really wanted that to keep everyone safe, she really wanted to be the horse tonight. So she just like put all her mental energy into maintaining her horse form. And oh god, I don't know. There's just gonna be like a bunch of like weird little My Little Pony crossover fan art or something, and I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Oh my gosh, you're probably right. I mean, there already isn't any fandom anyways with My Little Pony, but I can imagine it's probably going to be even worse now.
Um,
Oh my gosh.
so Greg, I wanted to see a lot more of him. I mean, he's like physically in the episode, but he after the beginning he stops having lines. Even though he didn't actually get to be in it for all that long, he had some great lines, and it's
He
so
did.
cool to see him just being just Greg knows what's up. Greg doesn't freak out over this. Greg knows. And I mean like it's I didn't even expect them to really show Greg's reaction to the pink diamond thing, and I think that they just kind of nailed it in that he's absolutely right. I mean like he knew the person that she was in that time. She was not faking being Rose Quartz.
Exactly, and it doesn't really affect him in that she was like you said, she was Rose Quartz when she was with him. So he doesn't really feel that if she didn't feel the need to tell him that she really didn't need to because she wasn't Pink Diamond still technically. I mean,
Mhm.
gemstone wise, yes, but she wasn't that person any longer. She was Rose, so that's all he needed to know, and I think that that was absolutely beautiful how they handled that.
It's an interest I mean it's like just kind of an interesting thought about identity in that just like if she was acting how if she wasn't lying, she wasn't misleading anyone just because her form isn't the initial form she had and just because she comes from royalty or something like that, like it's not relevant to Greg. Now of course it is relevant to the other gems just because of her status and because it puts them in danger, but for Greg it isn't relevant, and I think he realizes that, and he's got a great line about just like, well, you know, she didn't know Gregory DeMayo, and it's like, well,
Actually,
yeah.
and it's funny too because it really just puts it on. It's just an alias, like it's just another name.
Yeah.
Like that, him being Greg DeMayo and her being Pink Diamond, they're just names because they're not the same person that they were when they had the names. So realistically, it doesn't really matter. So I love his line like that too, and I think it really puts emphasis on. Well, Rose and Pink Diamond were kind of different, so I love that.
Hmm. How did you feel about Steven in this episode, actually?
I love how he acted. I mean, because I'm trying to think. I think it was trying to show that if you really want two people to be together, or you really want something to be together, you need to realize that it needs to be what's best for them, and not necessarily what you want. And I really liked how it put emphasis on Steven seeing what he thought that he saw Ruby being happy. And he was okay with Garnet not being in existence anymore if that's what it meant, because he knew that Ruby was happy and Ruby was part of Garnet.
Hmm.
So I liked that it's kind of like a message that if two people don't want to be together, regardless about if you really want them to be together, all that matters is if they're happy. And if they're happy apart, then that's how they're happy.
Yeah, I mean, I did think it was a little like yeah, unintended implications when Steven's like freaking out about them not being Garnet, but it's like, does Steven not care about Ruby and Sapphire? Like,
Yeah.
I get why he freaks out about Garnet, and I mean from a lot of places, the team does kind of still need Garnet to be Garnet, but no, I think that it did a good job of showing him kind of freaked out about the prospect, and then he just cools off. And ultimately, the episode really isn't about him, so keeping him lower focus. I think having last episode in between this one and the one before it was just great because that was the episode where we really got to focus on Steven, and now we can kind of go back to Ruby and Sapphire, and just focus more on them.
Exactly, and then it's going to be the calm before the storm. But I just really loved how they did that. I think that they pulled it off pretty well. And initially, I was pretty nervous about it because I wasn't sure if the entire time Steven was going to be angsting over how Garnet wasn't going to be around anymore, because I think that that would have kind of ruined the episode, at
Yeah.
least in my opinion. So I'm glad that they didn't take that route, because in the trailer I was nervous that that's what that entire episode was going to be about.
Hmm. I will also say that, like, looking at it compared to other arcs where two characters fight and then come back together. So the Stephen and Connie one, the friendship arc, and that sort of thing. It is just like, for whatever reason, this show does this thing where it's the characters aren't talking, and then as soon as they start talking, like, it literally just takes two lines and then they're just back together again. And I mean, I will give this storyline the benefit of the doubt in that, like, not the benefit of the doubt, but the credit in that we do get to see both characters' perspectives. But I don't know. I mean, it would have been nice to see. I don't know. I guess it would have been nice to see Ruby and Sapphire talking more about the thing that Sapphire was upset about, like, just even a few lines, because it really was just like Ruby was like, "You were right," and it's like, oh. Okay, like, that's every single time two characters in this world split apart. All it takes is for one of them. There's always one person that is just objectively right in the situation, and all it takes is a simple apology, and then everything's solved. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they probably should have talked about it too. I agree with that. I feel like it's that 10-minute episode curse where they
Yeah,
don't have enough time to fit everything in that they want to. Because I really do think that that dialogue was perfect, because I don't think that Sapphire was entirely correct to yell at Ruby.
yeah,
Um, and there should have been a conversation there, because Ruby shouldn't just automatically cave in and be like, "Oh no, you were right. You're always right," because she said that in the past
hmm,
with other situations, and I do think that they had an opportunity here to talk about it.
yeah. And I mean, even if it was just a little thing, it is like, so even if Sapphire was right about the kind of general point about, like, well, they should have looked into Pink Diamond, and I mean, or they should have looked into Rose, and that they did trust Rose so much, and maybe their relationship is nothing if Rose isn't what she seemed or whatever. Like, she's got some interesting points, but she should not have treated Ruby like that in the first place. And even
No.
still, I don't think that's entirely correct. I mean, I don't know. The episode seems to kind of position it where, like, Rose is the one that got them together or something, and that's not really the case.
I think I think what it was trying to go for was that Rose maybe gave them
The
the
strength?
go ahead, yeah, the strength, or like the go ahead, like, "Oh, listen, fusion isn't like this horrible thing," because she was probably the first person that they ever heard it from.
Hmm.
Like, Homeworld reacted to it as, Ruby's going to get shattered and Sapphire is most likely going to get in big trouble, or she wasn't even getting in any trouble at all, because I think they blamed it completely on Ruby, um,
So
which makes
impulsive.
sense. Also lower class too, but yeah, I forget where I was going, but whoops.
um oh, just about, like, yeah, I think I see what you're trying to say.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Just in that, like, I don't know, it's weird because, like, yeah, Rose didn't literally get them together. She just encouraged them, I guess. But
Yes, that was
but,
what I was going for. Thank you.
but as we see in the answer, it I mean, Rose is definitely not the one that even played matchmaker with them. She just maybe gave them the confidence to continue. And the way this episode phrases it, it kind of seems like it's trying to imply that, like, Rose is the one, but I don't know. I see what maybe they're trying to go for, and yeah.
I think it was kind of unclear, especially since it was just kind of like, it's kind of just glossed over and implied that Rose was the reason that they got and stayed together. So yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. Like, I think that's what they were trying to go for. Maybe they didn't imply it as strongly as they should have, though.
Well, maybe we should have seen, like, a little bit more after what immediately happened. After Now We're Only Falling Apart. Like, did Rose, like, continuously kind of, like, push them to stay together, or, like, tell them not to unfuse or something? I don't know. I
I
feel like maybe that's, like, an important part of the story.
mean, somebody pointed out that Rose may have wanted them to fuse again because she wanted to know how to fuse into rainbow quartz with
Ooh.
Pearl. And maybe that's why she did push them to do it, because she wanted to learn how to fuse two different gems together through Ruby and Sapphire, since they had already accomplished it.
Hmm. Interesting.
So, I mean, maybe that's how it would, but it, like you said, in that case, then maybe they should have shown more of that scene, so that way we had the implications behind it, because I'm not quite sure if they're going to show more on that past, or
Hmm.
if they're done with that timeline at this point.
Well, see, that's the problem with a show like this, is that the more we get of the backstory, the more we're gonna want, and there's no way that they're ever going to tell us, like, the entire timeline of the war.
No, too many short episodes and not enough time. to do
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think with the details they've laid out, like I'm not saying it doesn't like make sense or it contradicts, but I think it might be a little bit of a task to try to like string it together in a straightforward narrative or something. Um but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Going back to just kind of this episode in general, I wouldn't say that I hate it or anything. I like I said, I like the beginning and I like the end. I just don't really like the decision they went with, and yeah, I just thought it was like okay,
Well, the other thing that I will say that I like is that starting with Amethyst and Steven, it seems like they're starting to move past Rose's whole influence because Ruby's being like, okay, well, I still want to be with Sapphire, but I don't want it to be in the way that, oh, well, Rose encouraged us to be together. So I want to be together because I want us to be together, not because somebody else wanted us to be together. And just like how Amethyst was saying, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to let some 1,000-year-old war have any influence over me. And it kind of, I think it's good in that way that it's trying to show that they're trying to move past Rose, because Rose is gone, so there's no reason in like staying focused on, I mean, obviously you need to know some of what Rose did because it's going to come into play later
hmm
with like the diamonds and everything. But I think it's just important that showing that they're finally moving past Rose and they're not gonna let Rose have this deadly grip on them anymore. It's almost suffocating.
so
So
so this is ultimately what gets them to move on from Rose basically dying is learning that she was kind of a bad person in some ways. So now we don't have to feel as bad that she died. Is that?
I mean,
I know
I would hope not. I would hope not. I hope this is just them realizing that she. I mean, you're probably right, though. You're probably right.
On it, like I don't think that's what they're trying to say, but that is kind of like interesting that okay, so Rose's shadow that she cast over, and I mean, I don't know, maybe it's not the worst message in the world that like the gems did idolize her and put her on a huge pedestal, and maybe just kind of like this realizing that she wasn't just this like angelic savior of all things is going to help in getting over her, because if she was truly the perfect person that saved everyone, her passing is and her choosing to pass on is, I don't know, it's a lot more complicated and sad, I guess, or dark or hard to get over versus, well, she was a complicated person, so her passing is like anyone else's passing. It's just inevitable.
Exactly. Like I think that's what they're trying to go for, which I just like how they're trying to move on from her at this point because earlier in the season, like everything was kind of focused around her and it was really suffocating for Steven too. So I'm just hoping he can move on and have stop having the obsession that he needs to live up to what his mother was, which I think he kind of did. Like in last episode, he started moving past that, but I just
Mhm.
hope that that's where that's leading.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess just like, oh, this is a small detail, but it's something I just thought of. Wouldn't it have been cool if they took down Rose's picture?
Yes.
That could have been
Yes.
like a, and then maybe they put it back up when, I don't know, they kind of all discuss it and they agree that Rose was not the person they thought she was, but she was still a person in their lives and was important. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but she also doesn't need to be like on a pedestal everywhere because, like, even in the temple, it's kind of like she's there constantly watching over them and kind of, I would say, kind of judging in a way, or at least that's how Steven sees it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that picture has been there since the first episode, and even if a beam is conveniently covering her eyes, so we don't have to focus on her, that presence has been looming. And so I think, I mean, I don't know, it would have been cool to kind of take it down and just be like, and maybe even permanently take it down. Maybe even say like, you know what? Like we are not living in the shadow of Rose. We are, and I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of really cool things they're exploring with this week, and I'm glad that it's not just a superficial like these two characters are splitting up. I'm glad that there's just a lot of things going on in different angles and different ways, and I don't know. Like I'm just it's gonna be crazy what happens in the next two episodes.
Oh, yeah, especially given the trailer. I don't know how it's going to wrap up that quickly, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Reunited is 22 minutes, so hopefully they'll be able to do it without rushing anything.
Yep. Yep. Do you know anything about Maid of Honor?
Um, Not past them supposedly getting married, no.
Oh, you think
I
they're gonna
do know
get
stuff about. Oh yeah, I think they're gonna get married.
wait in the next episode? You don't think that's gonna be the last one?
Um,
I
I'm
I oh,
I think Reunited is I mean trailer spoilers
mm,
obviously, not like podcast or anything, but obviously I'm assuming what Reunited means is if the diamonds are invading, all of the diamonds are reunited. That's what I'm assuming the title Reunited means. Maid of
that's
Honor, I think um
rip in peace, White
I
Diamond.
think right.
He just wrote her off right there.
Sorry.
All the diamonds.
I mean, we haven't really seen her at all. She's just watching from space disapprovingly. The
Mm,
whole reason why they come to Earth is to crash the wedding. Watch that. That'd be so funny. They just as soon as the wedding's
uh,
happening, they just come down. They're like, we can't even get a moment's peace.
dude,
It's not
no,
allowed.
don't even like give me this like dystopian future in which we get a hit the diamond episode where it's just like they get down to Earth and then they're all like, guys, we're having a wedding. How dare you? And then like I don't know, blue and yellow just kind of like sit in the chairs, the comedically tiny chairs, and they're just like, oh, we can wait until it's over. Like, oh, are we on the bride's side or the bride's side? I don't know.
Oh my gosh! Imagine.
uh,
Oh, that would be so bad. I mean, I know that they're not going to do that, but the
mm.
dystopian future in which they do, I'm glad we're not in that timeline.
uh-huh. Oh goodness, is are we gonna get like Blue Diamond? Like, if anyone should disapprove of this union, speak now. And Blue Diamond's like, I don't want to say my children because that's a weird implication, but you know my underlings.
My court members. I don't know.
Sure, sure, sure. You know, how dare you do this? You don't have my approval. We don't need your approval, Mom. Oh God,
Oh my
I don't.
gosh. Be elope instead. Oh my gosh.
uh,
They get on Amethyst as a horse and ride away to some place where they can elope.
I'm okay. So I don't know anything for certain. I haven't seen like any of the spoilers other than just the trailer. But if I were to guess, I'm gonna go ahead and say that Maid of Honor implies that they want Bismuth at their wedding, and she's gonna be the Maid of Honor, and it's all gonna be just like
Ooh.
8 different levels of pun.
Ooh, yes. I didn't even think of them wanting Bismuth to come back. That's a
Be-
really good point.
Because if they're gonna get out of the shadow of Rose Quartz, they need to get out of her decision to bubble Bismuth or to not
Exactly.
deal with Bismuth. And I think enough time has passed and enough like information has come out that I mean I'm pretty sure Bismuth is showing up. I don't know if that's in any spoilers or not, but I think that it's about time. I'd much rather see her than Jasper, but
I mean, this is also the perfect time to do it too, because it's just in lieu of them finding out about Rose being Pink Diamond. And
mhm.
that kind of, it doesn't, then there's really no sense to keep Bismuth bubbled at this point, to be honest. Like, I
Well,
mean,
she tried
unless,
to kill Steven, so I
well,
mean
I mean, that, yes. There's that. And then if Steven doesn't want the other diamonds shattered because Bismuth will go after them. I mean that's
mm,
the only reasons that I could see them keeping her bubbled for,
yeah.
or that if they think that Bismuth is going to react badly to knowing that
Hmm.
Steven is technically Pink Diamond, because I think she would react probably the worst out of all of them.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the episode is that they bring her back because they want her to be a part of the wedding, but then they're all just dancing around this new information that might set
Oh
her
my
berserk.
gosh! Oh my gosh! That's just all of Maid of Honor is just them trying to explain to Bismuth, and they're trying to do it in the correct way without her being like super angry about it.
It's like, Bismuth's like, wait a minute, are you telling me I almost got to shatter Pink Diamond? Gotta finish the job.
Oh my gosh!
No, I'm
Man,
Steven. I'm Steven. Remember, we've been over this.
we had this conversation before you got poofed. Remembered?
Oh,
I
God.
had a sword in your gut.
Oh man, but no, I do think it would be the nice time. I don't know. The Maid of Honor could be like anything. It could be about planning the wedding. It could be the wedding. It could be, dude, I don't know. It could be a Peridot episode. I have no idea. Maybe Peridot's the Maid of Honor. I don't know.
Oh please, we need to get
Oh
Peridot in
wait,
on this. I swear,
wait a
if she's
minute.
gonna be in the bathroom the whole time.
That's a good point. I forgot she's in the bathroom. What the heck
Yes,
is going on with that?
yes. I don't know. I wish she was. Listen, this is like my one problem with all these episodes so far. Peridot is nowhere, and she's in the bathroom.
Where's my
Like, you mean
non-speaking cameo? Where's my
yes?
non-speaking cameo?
Where is she? Shelby Ribara, where are you?
I, if
Oh
she,
my gosh.
I mean, I don't know, man. But yeah, like, it makes sense why they wouldn't necessarily want to involve her, because the more characters they involve, the more reactions they have to get to the Pink Diamond thing, even if it doesn't really mean that much to... I mean, actually, I feel like it would mean a lot to Peridot, because, like, Peridot would be like, I've been serving a diamond all this time.
Yeah, she'd just do that little laugh, and she probably wouldn't even say it out loud. She's just sitting there laughing until someone's like, Peridot, what are you laughing at? And then she'd explain it.
It's funny too,
Oh my
because
gosh.
with how much they yell, like, Rose Quartz was pink diamond, she definitely heard that.
Oh,
Don't
she
tell me
had to
Peridot
have.
didn't hear that.
Unless she's being angsty and she has the black hair with the red stripe and she's in the bathroom with
Oh
Pumpkin.
God,
And in which case then she didn't hear it.
dude, I don't know. I don't know. But she's gotta be at the wedding, right?
I hope if she's not at the wedding, that I'm gonna be like, Cruniverse, where is she? Explain. Where is she? Like, I feel like they could have done a non-speaking cameo with her hanging out with Pearl and Sapphire,
Yeah.
and then shows that she's she's part of the Crystal Gems. She's not just in the bathroom the whole time, like 24 hours every single day.
But like she isn't. Like that's what hurts, is that like the show says she's a crystal gem, but there's no star.
Exactly.
There's no being a part of Crystal Gem, like all Crystal Gem episode. There's none of that. It's just lip service, and it sucks, because it's like, back when the show was earlier, we thought it would be like a world that transformed, and a team that grew, or whatever, like a theme song that's going to change every season, something like that. And Peridot is treated like a second-hand gem or whatever. Second, she's Titan's East or whatever.
Yeah, she's not really in it all that much. It's so disappointing because they have such an opportunity with her character, and the thing is too, is she could be the comedic relief of the show. We don't need all of these side characters to be the comedic relief. Peridot could be it herself, but we don't really get to see her all that much. And even when she is in the temple, we don't see her anyway because she's always in the bathroom.
Oh man. Yeah.
Of all the places to be, she's in the bathroom.
Where were you during the diamonds coming down to Earth? Oh, I was in the bathroom with Pumpkin. Like
I was playing country music very loud. Sorry, I didn't hear anything.
I was just repeatedly flushing the toilet while sitting inside of it for like 10 hours straight. It's loud, so I didn't hear anything. Oh man. All right, well, we've gotten a little off track.
It's okay.
Yeah. So I guess did you have any finishing thoughts on I want to call this episode Room for Ruby, but that's not the title.
Nope. I don't have anything else. I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. Do you have anything else, or no?
Nope, that's about it. I'm excited for tomorrow. I don't think this like ruined the arc or anything like that, but it just didn't do it for me.
And it flopped for you, fell a little flat.
Yeah. Oh well. I'm very excited for next episode. So
Same.
Yeah. All right. PIEGUYRULZ out.